Seiji is a lonely bum who likes helping people out because he loves seeking attention, especially from his childhood friend who is a bit too developed for her age. His life takes a turn when he helps out a homeless man, and in return he gets a sus tattoo that gives him mysterious powers. Soon, he becomes involved in the power struggle of two countries who are coming after his tattoo, but before any of this, a crazy-looking dude runs through some shady streets and he gets cornered in one of them while a white-haired babe casually walks towards him. She takes out her fancy gun and then shoots him. At the same time, Seiji knocks out a thief, and he does this to save a homeless man lying on the street. The homeless man takes out a strange tablet to thank him, and he comments that the tablet will lead him to the truth of the world. He puts the tablet on his hand, which leads to his hand getting imprinted with a strange-looking tattoo, and he then walks away. The next day, Seiji rushes to the school with his friend Tuko and runs into the white-haired chick who slams him down. She then tries to help him stand, but when their hands touch, suddenly an electric current passes through the both of them. The girl goes into shock, and after telling him to be careful, she walks away. Seiji then rushes to school again, and during his class, he keeps trying to rub off the ink on his hand, but it doesn't go away. He tells his friends after the class that he was helping a homeless man out when the man gave him the tattoo in return, and his friends make fun of the fact that he is always random people out, so Seiji reminds them that he knows martial arts due to which he can help out many people. One of his friends jokes about how America is building a secret weapon which has arrived in Japan as well, and how this weapon can be activated through his tattoo. Suddenly, Seiji's friend Tuko arrives and tells him to go shopping with her after school, but he tries to make an excuse that he has a dojo to attend. His friends make fun of her for acting like Seiji's wife, and meanwhile she doesn't listen to any of Seiji's whining. Rather, she tells him that she will be waiting for him after school. They both head to a supermarket after school where she asks him what he would like to eat, and he tells her that he is fine with anything since she is always helping him out so much. She gets busy shopping while Seiji heads out to call his grandpa when suddenly the white-haired chick pops out of nowhere. She chit-chats with him, and suddenly snatching his phone from his hand, she runs away. He chases after her because he loves chasing girls, while Tuko exits the market only to find that Seiji is gone. Seiji runs after the chick forever till she lures him into an abandoned building, and she then starts going through his phone. Of course, he gets super embarrassed, and she then asks him where he got his tattoo from. He doesn't understand what she is talking about, so she attacks him and tells him that his tattoo is one of America's top secret creations, so she has to take it back from him. She keeps kicking him and he gets cornered against a pillar. When she attacks him again, he blocks her kick with a solid block. He then tries to flip her down, but she kicks him and sends him flying. Before he can even hit the wall, she lunges at him and keeps kicking and punching him so much that he starts seeing stars. She flips him around like he is her own toy, and Seiji realizes that he is going to get killed, but just then, the chick notices his expression and backs away. She apologizes casually for going too far, and she then shows him her own tattoo. She explains that the tattoo can be activated through the user's own unique trigger, and that the powers allow the person's abilities to be mega enhanced. She takes out her own trigger, which is a chalk, and shows him how to activate the powers. The chalk gets absorbed in her hand, and she then creates a ball of air which goes up in the air to explode. Later, Seiji's grandfather beats the crap out of him in karate for getting run down by a thief, and he reminds him that his father also died because of his weakness. He keeps reminding him that justice cannot be served without strength. Seiji recalls that his dad told him in the past to always reach for things that he wanted to attain. The next day, he attends school as usual while the white-haired chick named Izzy spies on him from a distance. She discusses with her colleague Tom that even though they are supposed to retrieve the weapons that have spread outside America, he should leave Seiji to her. Their food arrives, and she then begins licking the milk like a cat. In the next upcoming days, Izzy keeps stalking Seiji throughout his classes, but she is too noticeable, due to which everyone knows that Seiji is being stalked. She even stalks him on the way home, so Tuko decides to scold her, and Seiji tells her that he will deal with it. He tells Izzy to properly tail her, but she gets hurt to hear this since she thought she was properly stalking him. She then commends him for not sharing the secret of their powers with anyone, and he tells her that he tried to trigger his powers with the chalk, but he failed. He also starts whining that he has never felt so weak, and suddenly they see a man push someone down. The man rushes towards them, so Seiji tackles him and slams him down. The other man turns out to be Izzy's friend Tom, and he tells them that he was actually hunting a sealed man. Suddenly the first man gets up and tackles Seiji, which sends him flying to the other side of the street. Seiji volunteers to fight him, while Tom tells Izzy that the sealed man is an American mafia member who came to Japan to get his hands on one of the tattoos, and that he has superhuman physical abilities thanks to his sealed powers. The sealed man keeps trying to hit Seiji with his bulldozer fists, but Seiji swiftly dodges all of his attacks. Izzy gives him a tip that the sealed one got his hands on the tattoo just 1 month ago, due to which he is just a rookie, and suddenly Seiji's fist connects with the man's mouth. Still, the man slams Seiji down and punches his stomach hard. He starts beating him up, and once again Seiji thinks he is about to die. The others rush to save him, and he extends his hand as he thinks about his dad. Suddenly his powers get activated, and he sends the sealed man flying due to his powers. He then collapses, and Izzy and Tom realize that Seiji has a triggerless tattoo which allows him to create a void. Seiji wakes up in his room where he discovers that Izzy is writing something on his forehead while Tom is rummaging through his room to look for some pornos. They both then tell him that they are actually from the US Army, and that they have come to Japan to retrieve the tattoos that were stolen by a certain researcher. Izzy asks Seiji to join her and Tom explains that even if he doesn't join them they may have to cut his arm and take it back with them. They both go on to explain that Seiji's power allows him to create void due to which it's really dangerous and that he can even kill himself with his own powers due to which they can train him to use his powers without hindering his usual lifestyle. Seiji becomes angry to hear this since he thinks it's their fault in the first place and he lunges at Izzy, so she smoothly grabs him and flips him on the ground. She reminds him that he was the one who wanted the power in the first place and that everybody loses something to gain power just like she has been stuck in a child's body forever. She then leaves him after telling him that she expects a favorable response from him. The next day, Izzy suddenly joins Seiji's class as a transfer student and right off the bat, she calls Seiji's name loudly. After the class, everybody surrounds her due to her foreign nature and pretty hair and the students ask her about her relationship with Seiji so she suggestively comments that they don't have a normal relationship. She also slips a piece of paper inside his pocket and just then, the class boys gather around Seiji and throw him out of the window. Tuko tells Izzy that she won't allow him to be so friendly with Seiji and that she knows she was his stalker, which makes Izzy comment that she is also aware she is his childhood friend. Later, Seiji confronts Izzy and demands to know why she has moved into his school, so she asks him whether he is willing to join her. Tom also steps out and shares that Izzy's body stopped growing when she got the tattoo, so she kicks him to stop him from revealing her true age. They both tell him that tattoos are actually ancient relics and that they have both joined the army to stop war from breaking out. Izzy explains that America and the kingdom may go to war and that the kingdom's knowledge of these tattoos exceeds the American knowledge due to which the tattoos may be used by the kingdom as a weapon of mass destruction. Seiji also remembers that he wants to become stronger just like his dad, so he agrees to join Izzy and Tom. He also tells them that he will put them down if he ever feels like they are doing wrong things, and Izzy and Tom then welcome him into their team, which is called Team Blue Moon. Izzy also tells him that his trigger is blood, so he should stay cautious around blood. Later she and Tom discuss that Seiji is very naive and that they cannot reveal everything to him yet. Izzy tells Tom that they are not going to report about Seiji to their headquarters because they would be sent back home and Seiji would be sent to the lab to be experimented on. She also comments that they cannot let the kingdom take advantage of the situation, so it's best to just keep Seiji under their supervision and train him. Tom points out that she is being too considerate with Seiji and that he was not aware she is such a humanitarian, but he then apologizes for speaking so carelessly. He goes to hail a taxi while Izzy takes out a picture of a girl and looks at it. In the kingdom of Selanistan, a Princess Aryabhata does a bloody coup against her parents through a group named Brahman, and as she walks towards the crown like a brat, she tells Brahman to rip apart her dad, who was the last king. She also tells Captain Ajita to proceed to the next step of the plan as she yaps about how she wants to have the whole world. In Japan, Seiji decides to keep his alliance with Izzy a secret from his childhood friend Tuko, and he then goes to an address where Izzy had told him to come. He arrives at a normal-looking house and he wonders what's inside the house, considering it's the secret hideout of the US Army. When he rings the bell, he hears Tom's voice asking the solicitors to go away, but when Tom learns that it's just the useless Seiji, he comes out to meet him. Tom takes Seiji outside while Tuko watches everything from a distance. She thinks that it's suspicious that Seiji has been avoiding her ever since Izzy's arrival, and she decides to stop him from getting into anything dangerous, but she then thinks the better of it and starts to leave. Just when she turns around, a creepy-looking chick blocks her path and suddenly attacks her. Seiji thinks that Tom's house is very normal, unlike what he was expecting, and his room even contains normal video games and comic books like a typical weeb. Izzy then calls him to let him know that she is going to be late, so he should talk with Tom in the meanwhile. After the call, the landline starts to ring, so Tom asks Seiji to go to the basement to fetch something while he picks up the call from Izzy. She informs him that Kingdom Selanistan has been taken over by Princess Aryabhata, and they both discuss how things are going to change soon. Seiji arrives at the basement to find that it's huge and filled with training equipment while someone rings the bell, so Tom heads to the door to answer it. Suddenly someone barges through the door and injures him. It turns out to be a possessed form of Tuko, who notices Seiji and she comments that she has found the sealed triggerless tattoo. Meanwhile, Izzy is setting up booby traps in the school when suddenly the trap gets set off and another tattoo holder arrives. He introduces himself as Lurker from the group Brahman, and he reveals that he was sent by Princess Aryabhata to retrieve the triggerless tattoo. She then starts lashing his whip roughly in the air, which manages to tear Izzy's clothes. Tuko sees a vision in which there are creepy people walking by, and she notices the person who attacked her dressed in rags. The very person stumbles across Aryabhata and Captain Ajita, and Ajita comments that the girl must be from the nearby. She would like to eat her food, and she even tells her to lick her shoes to eat the food. The girl leans down, but suddenly she attacks Izzy and Izzy blocks her attack. She then grabs the girl and starts kissing her. Izzy compliments her skills and tells her that she needs people like her, while the girl introduces herself as Iltutmish. In real life, Seiji cannot believe that Tuko would attack her, and Tom tells him that he should run away as an assassin has come to take his tattoo away from the kingdom. Iltutmish reveals that she is just borrowing Tuko's body, and Tom tells Seiji to use the blood in the box lying around to trigger his powers, but just then, Iltutmish kicks the box away. Meanwhile, Izzy's fight with Lurker rages on, and she jumps into a classroom to trigger her powers. She then makes the air explode around Lurker through her powers and takes this chance to run away. Seiji is unable to activate his powers with blood while Lurker continues to attack him with an umbrella. He keeps dodging and blocking her attacks, but he cannot fight back properly and she then corners him. He stabs his shoulders and he tells her to leave his friend's body. She starts yapping that her concept of justice means listening to her princess and killing him. She is about to stab him again while Tuko watches all of this from inside her body and she tells Iltutmish to stop troubling her friend. She starts resisting, due to which Iltutmish struggles for a second and Seiji lunges at her to stop her. Tom then uses the powers of his tattoo to remove Iltutmish from Tuko's body, and he tells Iltutmish uses the power of possession through her tattoos and that she is an infamous user from Kingdom. Iltutmish lunges towards Tom to kill him and Seiji blocks her with his hand. He yells at her that there are some things he cannot do and suddenly his powers get activated as he starts to emit a black smoke. Tom yells at him not to release his powers, but Seiji doesn't pay any attention to him, and just when the void starts to expand, Tuko pushes him back and the void ends up eating up half of Tom's house. Iltutmish manages to escape and she is about to attack when she gets a message from Lurker telling her to retreat. Izzy arrives to find her house half gone while Tuko scolds Seiji for getting into such a mess. He keeps apologizing to her as he notices that she has a tattoo on her head too. The next few days, Izzy trains Seiji to transform from a was into a fighter and she keeps beating him up, which shocks Tuko since Seiji could only be defeated by his grandfather. Izzy also gives him advice as they are fighting and she notices that his tattoo remains active for a long time, probably due to his physical athletic abilities. Tom then plasters a bandage on Tuko's head to hide her tattoo and he explains that his own tattoo is removable because it's a byproduct of the original tattoo, but original tattoos cannot be removed, which Izzy and Seiji have. Izzy then shows a video of something grotesque to Seiji and she explains that it's the result of a test subject of a triggerless tattoo gone wrong. In the video, the organs and eyes of the test subject mesh together to create a disgusting looking creature, and she explains that if he doesn't learn how to properly use his powers, he will turn out to be the same and he won't be able to differentiate himself from the darkness. She points out how he would have disappeared in his last attack and he tries to justify his actions that he was really angry. She makes him promise that he won't activate his powers without her permission and that he will improve his base abilities to improve his control over his powers. He also gets a specific device from them which will give him an alert if somebody has activated their tattoos in his vicinity, and which will also send an alert to Tom and Izzy so they can run to help him. He then heads to run while Izzy and Tom discuss where the kingdom would have gotten their information regarding Seiji's powers. Tom advises Izzy to take Seiji back to America because they cannot let the kingdom take the triggerless tattoo at any cost, but Izzy seems reluctant about it and she tells Tom to give another, and he declares that he will protect Tuko since the strong have to always protect the weak. She thinks he is very cool despite his cringe speech, and she also thinks that the whole situation is very romantic, but she runs away before having to arrest, so Izzy beats her up. Later her friend shares details about the next mission with her and they discuss how they need to send strategic information back to America due to the kingdom's latest coup. Izzy seems worried, so her friend advises her to spill any important information if she has any. Meanwhile Iltutmish takes the injured cat home, who was apparently not dead, and gives him a bath after treating him. After her bath, Lurker tells her that a new weapon was delivered for her and that they have been instructed to eliminate American soldiers for now. He shows her the next target, which turns out to be Izzy's US Army friend. Seiji runs after a tattoo thief and almost becomes Spider-Man as he jumps against the buildings left and right. He overtakes the thief and then tells him that he needs to run faster as a thief. The other person lunges at him to attack him, but Seiji skillfully dodges his attacks and Izzy tells Seiji from a distance that he should relax his muscles during the fight. She then tells him that his drive lasts for about 10 minutes, so he should think carefully before activating his tattoo. She also thinks to herself that even though he has been training for 2 minutes, he has improved abnormally well. Iltutmish returns the cat to his street and she then heads to her next mission. In the meanwhile, a group of US Army soldiers chill around at their hideout when suddenly Iltutmish lands on their building by jumping from a helicopter. The hideout's tattoo detector gets activated, and just when the soldiers become alert, Iltutmish arrives inside and kills one of them. Suddenly panic spreads throughout the hideout as Iltutmish starts butchering the soldiers left and right. At Seiji's school, Seiji's classmates participate in a physical education class in which Tuko makes a very long jump and her teacher compliments her skills. She tells Izzy that she usually cannot make such long jumps and that her body has been feeling very light lately, which makes Izzy think that her tattoo must be activating. She immediately makes a request to leave and Seiji gets a notification in his device that Izzy has activated her tattoo. He realizes that something must be wrong, so he rushes out as well and heads to the roof where he spots Izzy running away. He activates his own tattoo and rushes after her. Meanwhile Izzy's friend Lisa uses her powers, which allow her to cause an explosion in air to corner Iltutmish, and she asks her how she came into the room without any detection, but Iltutmish doesn't reveal anything. They both fight with each other and Lisa also shoots at her continuously, which Iltutmish blocks smoothly with her weapon. Lisa wonders how she is moving through the walls, and meanwhile Izzy is rushing to the scene, but suddenly she falls on a building roof. Lurker casually greets her and tells her he has planted something to deactivate her tattoo. She gets restrained and suddenly Seiji also arrives at the building, but surprisingly he can still use his powers. Lisa gets her shoulder busted and Iltutmish announces that she will take her back to the kingdom. Lisa takes her gun out and starts shooting at her again and again, but Iltutmish blocks all of her attacks and rushes at her. Just when she gets near her, suddenly an explosion occurs and even Seiji notices it from afar. He asks Izzy whether her friends are positioned at the explosion site, and after confirming he rushes to the building. When he arrives there, he finds a butcher shop scene where all the soldiers have been shot down, and he then goes to the roof where he sees that Iltutmish has staked Lisa as a prop. Seiji demands to know why she killed so many people, and she tells him that he is too used to living in a peaceful world. She starts yapping endlessly about peace and war and whatnot, so Seiji tells her to give Lisa back and she refuses. He then rushes at her to attack her and she sends him flying back with her weapon. He starts to fall down the building, but Tom somehow manages to catch him and he then pulls him up. Seiji is about to rush up again, but Tom stops him and tells him that he cannot go recklessly attacking people because his existence is a secret. Just then, a helicopter passes above them carrying Lurker and Iltutmish and they escape. Later, Iltutmish's cat returns to her place and Seiji gets back to his school where Tuko meets him. She asks him whether he has been involved in something dangerous again, but he keeps avoiding her questions and even grabs his arm roughly. He then runs away and he wonders why he is acting like such a scum. Tuko also goes back to her classroom upset and she asks her friend how she can get to know Seiji even better, so her friend suggests spending more time with him. Tuko already spends a lot of time with him, so her friend teases her that she can try pushing him down with her big talents. Izzy arrives at the Dungeon of Blood and she notices a mobile of one of the soldiers which was recording everything. She listens to the recording and tells Tom to call the Zama headquarters to call for reinforcements as Lisa is being taken to the kingdom. She also heads off to find Lisa while Lurker stitches Lisa up. Seiji and Tuko get called to Tom's house where Tom reports to Izzy that a boat is going to head soon to kingdom from Yokohama port. She meets with Seiji and smacks his head so hard that he trips on his feet. She then handcuffs him like a naughty boy and leaves after shutting the basement. Tom explains to Seiji that they have to protect him along with his tattoo, but Seiji keeps up his whining about saving Lisa. Tom then explains to him that they would have originally taken him back to America and that his lifestyle comes at a cost as Izzy is breaching military regulations to keep him with her. He goes on to say that Izzy would be severely punished if something happens to him, so he should stay put, but Seiji refuses to understand any excuses and he thinks that they are being very selfish for deciding things on their own. He keeps yapping while Tom tells Tuko that her tattoo is also connected to Iltutmish's power somehow, due to which they are also keeping her with Seiji for now. She becomes very happy to hear this since she wants to get into his pants and tells Seiji that she wants to get to know him better and spend some more time with him. He realizes that he doesn't want to owe anyone any favors, rather he wants to protect others, so he breaks free from his handcuffs. Tom tries to stop him but he knocks him down swiftly and then he and Tuko go to the basement, which is locked. Seiji activates his powers to use Void to get rid of the door, but he ends up making the hole disappear because he can't control his powers yet. He and Tuko then rush to the Yokohama port while Tom reports to Izzy about this. She decides to handle the matter before their arrival, so she positions the guards at the port and they all intercept Lurker's car. A girl welcomes Princess Aryabata and tells her that her predictions about the location of the ruins were right. In the meanwhile, Lurker faces Izzy and he releases an attack on the American soldiers which injures them, while Iltutmish jumps at the back to deal with the soldiers on the backside. Lurker keeps attacking the useless soldiers, so Izzy jumps at him and shoots at his face with her gun multiple times. Only the first shot hits his face and he tells her that she is his favorite animal. At the same time, Iltutmish rushes through the soldiers and knocks them down one by one, so Tom maneuvers the other team to move around her to attack her, but she moves so fast that he is unable to track her properly. Suddenly he sees through the surveillance that Seiji and Tuko are also approaching the area and they both jump over the soldiers. Seiji jumps on the scene and faces Iltutmish. He activates his tattoo and Iltutmish lunges at him, but he dodges all of her attacks. He then calls her a lonely girl, which makes her triggered and she thrashes him so hard that he gets sent flying back. She tells him that she doesn't need any partner and that she only needs to protect the Princess Aryabata. She then keeps attacking him, and meanwhile Tom gets in touch with Tuko and he tells her to hand the phone to Seiji. She throws the phone at him just as he is running for his life, and Tom explains to him that Iltutmish uses the principle of uncertainty to fuel her powers and that she cannot use her powers if there is no observer around. Seiji then closes his eyes to combat her and notices that her powers get dimmed down when he is not looking. Still, Iltutmish rushes at him and slashes him with her weapons, which makes him bleed. She comments that there are many other observers in the area beside him, and meanwhile Lisa gains consciousness in the van where she was kept. She tries to get out, but the anesthesia makes her movements woozy. Seiji collapses on the ground and thinks he is about to die, so Tuko rushes at Iltutmish and slams into her with her plumpy melons. Iltutmish realizes that Tuko is drawing out the powers of the tattoo, which are making her powerful, but Iltutmish manages to push her back somehow. Seiji starts hearing a voice which tells him to destroy everything, but he gets sick of hearing it, so he decides to destroy the voice first. He smacks the ground with his powers, due to which a sinkhole gets created and the girls fall into it. He jumps after them and after kicking Iltutmish away, he manages to grab a hold of Tuko. He is about to finish Iltutmish off when her cat suddenly lunges at him and tries to stop him from hitting her. He tells Iltutmish that she has a partner after all, and suddenly Princess Aryabata arrives at the scene. Seiji starts to feel dizzy and trips near her, so she grabs him and kisses him on the mouth like some kind of leech. Iltutmish lunges at her and starts kissing her like some kind of despo. Aryabhata then tells Seiji that he could have killed everyone with his powers, but he declares that he could never harm anyone. She thinks he has potential talent, so for the time being, she grabs Iltutmish and teleports out. Izzy and Lurker keep fighting with each other and he tells her to give up as her powers don't work against him. She then fires a shot at him which hits him strongly, and she tells him that she has sent a shock wave at him. She then repeatedly hits him with shock waves until he gets cooked, but just when she turns around, he jumps at her again. She sends him to the ground with her air compressor powers and declares that she has won, but suddenly she falls to the ground. Lurker cracks up on trapping Izzy with the same tattoo deactivator device again, and just then, a group of soldiers arrive at the scene. Their head Lisa arrives too, and they all endlessly shoot at Lurker. Lisa and Izzy then finish him off with a joint kick, and suddenly Aryabhata appears. She admits their defeat and she is about to retreat when Lisa tells her that she cannot take Lurker back with her. Aryabhata asks her to defeat her to take Lurker back, and she conjures up a sinister-looking projection which implies that she has the sealed triggerless tattoo too. She then disappears with her minions, and Izzy's secret gets reported to the US Army. Later, the Brigadier Sanders tells Izzy that she has to be responsible for Seiji till the very end as a punishment, and Izzy cannot believe that she wasn't punished harder. Seiji and Tuko head to buy some vegetables when they come across Aryabhata and Iltutmish casually strolling in the market. Tuko orders Seiji to buy vegetables for her and he heads off while Tuko challenges Aryabhata to a match. She tells him that she will have Seiji if she wins, and Aryabhata counters that she wants her talents if she wins. They both start playing a table tennis match in which Tuko plays really well in the beginning thanks to Iltutmish's borrowed powers, but soon Aryabhata has the upper hand. She keeps hitting Tuko's body, and with time Tuko gets overpowered. A crowd even watches all of this, and finally Aryabhata lands her final move as she throws the ball at Tuko, which rips her shirt open. Later, Seiji demands answers from Aryabhata about the tattoos. She asks him his reason for fighting and he reveals that he doesn't want people to kill each other. She pitches to him that if her plan is realized, there will be a world where there will be no fighting. She then tells him that she will share all the information if he joins her side and leaves. On the way, she meets another SUS-looking fellow named Blood, and she comments that Seiji can progress much further with his help. He replies to her that the plan must be moving to the next stage if she has come to Japan. Later, Izzy and Tom eat lunch at Seiji's house, and they tell him that America's plan is to take over the world and to use the powers of tattoos instead of nuclear power. Izzy asks him to join the US Army, but Seiji refuses her offer and instead offers that he can become her partner whenever she needs help to avoid the war. She then announces that they are moving into his house since Seiji has destroyed their house. Izzy is cruising around the town with her Superman powers when she suddenly gets a call from Blood telling her that he is taking her minion Seiji for some time. Blood then takes Seiji to the Aryabhata High Order Physics Lab, and he explains that the lab is the kingdom's base for tattoo research in Japan, where they are studying the noise-canceling system to somehow neutralize the power of tattoos using the human brain. Blood tells him that the lab uses many people as their guinea pigs to experiment on them, and that he himself has also turned against the kingdom, so he is going to attack the lab now. Seiji gets enraged to hear the details and he decides to join him. He uses his powers to create a hole in the lab building, and they both rush inside. Seiji notices that Blood has the same tattoo and asks him how many tattoos there are, so Blood explains that there are 4 tattoos and ruins spread across the world. He reveals that America has 1 ruin while the kingdom has 2 ruins, and that the Brahmin group from the kingdom has been dispatched to find the 4th ruin. Aryabhata and her group of Powerpuff Girls walk through a mysterious underground tunnel, and Iltutmish starts to feel cold. The Vice Captain Cal scolds Aryabhata for being a slave to her desires, and in return Aryabhata teases her for being such a prude. Blood and Seiji are rushing through the hall when suddenly Blood pushes Seiji away, which stops him from getting hit by a bullet. A few gunmen surround them, and Blood advises Seiji to always sense the bloodlust of his enemies to detect them instantly. He then knocks down the gunmen, and they both rush to the next area where they come across a creepy-looking old man who welcomes Blood. He turns out to be a mad scientist who calls himself Mr. Genius and makes his assistant repeat that he is the best researcher and the best scientist. Blood points out that Mr. Genius was actually sent to America, and the scientist then shows them a group of people who have artificially manifested tattoos. The scientist, whose real name is Karam, reveals that he gathered guinea pigs from Japan to carry out his experiments, and that he assimilated a bunch of sources to make his experiment successful. Since Seiji doesn't know what a source is, Karam's assistant explains that every tattoo has a center nucleus which is like a tattoo soul, and Karam drops a bombshell that all the fake users will explode if they pass out. Blood declares that the right choice in this case is to save all of the fake users, and they all then attack them. Seiji dodges the bullets of one of the girls, and Karam discusses with his assistant that Blood's powers have reached a limit after he left Kingdom, so he won't be able to survive all the explosions if the bodies end up bursting. The vice captain of Braham Cal learns that Blood is also in Japan, and she vows to bring him down because he is a traitor. Blood and Seiji avoid an attack, and Blood then activates his powers which bring out his source. He then creates fluctuations in the space to knock all the users out somehow, and the bodies don't explode because he had located all the bombs during the fight precisely and had removed them from the bodies of the users with his void powers. Blood then lunges at Karam, and his assistant Manisha begs him not to hurt him. He tells Seiji that justice should be served no matter what, and he uses his powers to knock Karam and Manisha out. Later the police take all the bodies away and Blood shares with Seiji that he would never kill anyone as it goes against his ideals. Seiji thinks that Blood is the real deal, and meanwhile Aryabhata and her girls reach a huge crystal. Aryabhata then takes off her clothes, and as she touches the stone, she wishes that the underside would soon welcome Seiji too. Blood and another scientist named Wiseman discuss the tattoo's restorative powers which heal any wound very quickly. However, on the other hand, any tattoo user doesn't live for very long, which is very ironic. Blood then gives the data that he got from the lab to Wiseman, and Wiseman turns out to be the man who gave Seiji the tattoo in the first place. Wiseman tells him that now that he has gotten to know Aryabhata's plans, he will surely help him, and in return he will make his dreams come true. Later Seiji practices his powers with Blood, and although he is improving fast, Blood advises him to decrease the size of his void to the width of a hair. He reminds him that his powers can put someone in a wheelchair instantly and he needs to learn fast. After his training ends, Izzy comes to meet Blood and she asks him why he left the army back in the day, considering he was a major and was considered a big hotshot. He comments that she is the same as always, and he starts to walk away from her, so she runs after him like some cliched chick and grabs his coat from behind. She starts whining about how hard things were for her after he left, and he points out that she is still the coat that he gave to her. He confesses that he was never planning to meet her before the end of things, and he then tells her that the tattoos are more than just weapons. He explains that the 4 ruins of the world can be used to rewrite the world, and that Aryabhata has already got her hands on 2 of them while America has the 3rd one. He goes on to reveal that Aryabhata has recently been absorbed in the 3rd one as well, so she should hurry back and protect the last one, which is not under the kingdom's control. He advises her to keep Seiji on the right path and then leaves before she can say anything more. Later Wiseman gives Blood a capsule which can be used to alter his cerebrum, and they both discuss how they are going to use it to enhance the tattoo source within Blood. Tuko visits Seiji at his dojo and she finds him sleeping, so she decides to screw him. She gets on top of him and suddenly he wakes up, so her plan fails. Later they both discuss the ongoing situation and she makes him promise that they are both always going to be together. General Sanders takes Seiji and Tuko on an official mission in which he tells Seiji that he has high hopes for him and that he also intends to keep Tuko safe at all cost. They are both accompanied by a bunch of army top shots named Burns, Wang and Johnson, all of whom have original tattoos, and 20 other copied sealed members, which basically means that the whole station force in Japan is accompanying them. Wiseman informs Blood that the American tattoo force is on the move, and Blood asks to be let out since he wants to save Izzy, but Wiseman reminds him that Brahmin force is out to get him and that he cannot leave till his tattoo modification is complete. The American force arrives at the Japanese ruins where they let loose a bunch of missiles and bullets. Sanders reminds Seiji that they are at war and the force then gets deployed on the ground. Seiji and Izzy also rush after them, and slowly the tattoo force surrounds the ruin site. Vice Captain Cal steps forward from all the explosion and Johnson rushes at her as the rest of men take their positions in the surrounding forest. Johnson runs towards her when she suddenly takes her sword slightly out of her sheath. She then shuts it while Johnson collapses at her feet with his severed lower body lying a few feet away. One of the maids reports to Aryabhata about the ongoing situation, so she speculates that things may get tough for Cal and she asks Iltutmish to touch the crystal. She explains that the crystal will give her power and she can also manipulate her tattoo this way, which will allow her to stop Tuko from using her powers as well. Wang shoots at Cal and she uses an air barrier to repel the bullets back at him. He gets hit, but he nonetheless keeps shooting at her along with the other fighters. She then uses her powers to throw him against a tree, and she releases so much air pressure that Wang along with a bunch of trees are sent flying back in the air. Seiji also comes across her but decides to go after the bigger fish Aryabhata first. He runs towards the direction of the ruins instead, and Cal stops him by thrashing him left and right. She tells him to stay put and that he doesn't need to do anything else, but he still lunges at her. In the meanwhile, the fight between the American fighters and Brahmin maids rages on, and Izzy saves Tom from getting butchered. Suddenly, Iltutmish arrives at the scene and she transforms into a gigantic saber-tooth-alike creature. Izzy realizes that the American force is doomed, and Iltutmish then jumps at the American where Sanders and Tuko are located. The cat then jumps to the other helicopter too, which starts to crash down, and Sanders jumps on the ground with Tuko in his arms. He gives Tuko to Burns and tells him to take care of her while he turns around to face Cal. She sends an attack towards him which he swiftly dodges by jumping above, and he then sends an air pocket attack back at her. Izzy joins him and they both attack Cal together. Meanwhile, Aryabhata finishes the programming of the crystal and the crystal disappears to release a bunch of tattoo crystals. A maid fetches Aryabhata and tells her that Sanders is the leader of American force, which makes Aryabhata comment that the dude never learns. Above the ground, Cal and Sanders are equally matched, and Izzy uses a decompression technique to land some damage on her. Cal then uses a wall to collect air inside the wall, and she then releases her attack which Sanders manages to dodge, but it hits Izzy directly. Sanders thinks that Cal is open to attacks now, so he runs towards her, but she slices the air with her swords and hits him twice. He collapses on the ground, but still he declares that America will never lose to the kingdom, and Cal then slices his eyes. She then walks up to Izzy, whose arm has been busted due to the last attack, and she seems to know her, which is surprising for Izzy. Before anything can happen, a motorcycle jumps over both of them and Cal easily destroys it. Suddenly blood jumps between the both of them and Cal comments that he is a foolish man to come running for just one girl. He declares to take revenge for the sake of his fallen war buddies and Cal reminds him that he cannot defeat her. Izzy realizes that the whole fight might have been a plan to lure Blood to the scene and even Seiji roots for his sensei from a distance when suddenly Aryabata steps in his view. She starts roasting Blood's morals and Seiji attacks her to shut her up. She smacks him against an earth wall that she created and then stakes his arm against the wall. He yells at her that the Americans will stop her from rewriting the world and she explains that she just wants to make the world a better place. Seiji argues with her that she cannot just overwrite the people and there will, so she starts roasting him for having childish thoughts about justice. She explains her plan to him that she lured Blood to the site after leaking information about the ruined site herself and that she plans to devour him to get his second key after he has been taken down. She also decides to show him despair, so she starts stabbing Seiji again and again with an earth material. Blood teases Cal about being in love with him and she blushes hard, although she denies all his statements like a certified prude. He keeps teasing her till she confesses the truth that she really loves him and he tells her that the only woman he loves is Izzy. She attacks him in anger and he easily dodges her attack. He then tells her that he has come prepared for the battle, so she should seriously attack him with the intention to kill him. In the past, Blood and Izzy are having a cringe moment when Izzy starts twirling a lock of Blood's hair with her finger and he asks her whether she hates her tattoo. She reveals that she doesn't like it and that she wishes the tattoos would just disappear from the world. In the present, Wiseman watches everything from a distance and thinks that Blood will be able to use his powers fully if his implanted nanomachines keep working. Izzy gets away from the scene to get to Seiji while Blood and Cal begin their fight against each other. Lisa gets rid of one of the maids, although she manages to stab her arm before going down, and she notices that Sanders has been shot down, so she calls Burns and tells him to take command for now. Burns assesses the situation and since half of the forces have been killed, he orders an immediate retreat. He tells the survivors to focus on the injured people and Tom also drags Tuko away so that they can retreat, although she wants to go look for Seiji. Meanwhile, Seiji plays a modern-day Jesus while Aryabata tells him that he cannot use his powers because her own Void Maker's powers are stopping him from activating his own powers. Blood and Cal's fight rages on and they equally match against each other, but Cal comments that she cannot believe he still hasn't gotten in contact with his own void. Since Tuko is an attention-seeking chick, she runs away from Tom to look for Seiji and he is unable to run after her since he is out of his powers. Iltutmish approaches Lisa in her animal form and Burns tells Lisa that he will handle it, but Lisa reminds him that they are both soulmates who will defeat Iltutmish together. Blood is unable to get past Cal's wall, so he throws a stun grenade at her which temporarily blinds her and he then launches a sneak attack on her which cuts off her katana. He then throws some void spheres at her and she tells him that they will both die, due to which they will finally be together in death. Iltutmish continues attacking Lisa and Burns and Lisa runs to the side to dodge all her attacks. Iltutmish's attacks somehow turn the solid into gas and vice versa, so Burns uses his powers to make her immobile. Lisa then shoots at her, but somehow Iltutmish gets away and attacks both of them again from afar. She then lunges at Lisa and Burns comes in front of her, due to which he gets captured instead. Burns shoots at Iltutmish at a close distance and Lisa gets pushed back. Meanwhile, Tuko is as useless as ever as she wanders around the forest and she declares that she won't forgive Seiji for leaving her alone. Izzy manages to locate Seiji with Aryabata and she decides to shoot him, but just when she fires her gun at him, Aryabata uses her powers to conjure some earth material vines. She uses them to restrain Izzy and then to crush her with the vines. Just then, Cal also throws Blood in front of them and he asks his source to lend him his powers for just 5 minutes. The source touches his hand and Blood comments that Brahman's Captain Ajita was just a human weapon while the most powerful fighter was Cal all along. Aryabata then starts going on about how humans will always fight each other, so she intends to rewrite the very nature of human beings, and Seiji realizes that she intends to become a god who will erase all humans other than herself. Cal declares that the Brahman force has steeled their resolve to follow Aryabata and she attacks Blood again. They both go at each other's throats again and Cal then throws a bunch of glass shards at him which injures him. Izzy tells Seiji to help Blood out with his powers since she is pretty much useless herself, and he tells his source to lend him powers to surpass Aryabata. Suddenly he starts emitting black smoke and manages to get released from Aryabata's vines. Cal rushes at Blood to finish him off and Seiji interrupts her move. He holds her head and with Blood's help they use their Void Maker powers to bring her down. She collapses on the ground and Blood source starts to consume him because of overusage, so he begs Seiji to consume him instead. He reminds him that they have to defeat Aryabata and he orders Seiji's source to just eat him already. Aryabata decides to consume him instead, but just then, Sanders orders his minions to bomb the whole ruins down and they launch missiles at the site. Aryabata uses her powers to block the missiles while Seiji's source lunges at Blood to eat him up like the gourmet meal that he is. At the last moment, Blood tells Izzy that he is sorry for being so selfish and that he will still fulfill their promise. Seiji's source then eats him up and Aryabata decides decides that her business is over, so retracts her powers. She tells Seiji that she will show him true despair, and just then, the attention-seeking Oscar winner Tuko comes running towards Seiji. Iltutmish jumps at her and eats her whole. She then transforms back to normal while Seiji gets stunned beyond shock. Aryabhata tells Seiji that he will definitely come crawling back to her, and she and Iltutmish joke about how the hero of the story always gets a tragic plot in which he wants to take revenge. Aryabhata releases her powers, due to which huge spherical void structures start to spread at the site. Later, Seiji remains gloomy when suddenly Professor Wiseman comes to meet him. He asks him to join him, and suddenly Izzy arrives too, but without one arm. Wiseman tells the both of them that he knows about Blood's wish and he intends to make it true, due to which he wants the two of them to join him. He reveals that Blood's wish was to remove tattoos from the world, and that tattoos are a part of the process of evolution, due to which the tattoo sources are starting to get will of their own now. He scolds Seiji for being so childish and tells him to grow some balls, but Seiji thinks that his friends won't ever come back to life even if he grows up. In the past, Blood joins the kingdom, and even though the others are skeptical of him for leaving the American army, Aryabhata concludes that the army data he brought is legit. She also watches him practice fighting with Cal, and she decides to add him into Brahman based on his skills. Captain Ajita and Varma from Brahman introduce themselves to Blood, and Ajita comments that the princess also welcomes him, which makes Blood question why the king isn't involved in such matters. Aryabhata then tells him that he has qualified the test, due to which he will get the triggerless tattoo now, and they discuss how American doesn't even have the tech to test out such tattoos, which makes Aryabhata comment that America probably lost the inscription in their ruins, due to which they failed to test such a tattoo. Blood then decides to look for some technology that can destroy tattoos, and one day he walks into a Japanese house-like structure where he sees Cal changing clothes. Cal reveals that Aryabhata got the house specially built for her, and she warns him not to enter another place called Samsara. Later, Blood wonders how he should sneak into Samsara when he notices Varma, who is another Brahmin fighter, sneaks onto him. He pushes Varma to the ground and gets to know that Varma is actually the king's spy, who is also rumored to be his lover. Varma also reveals that Samsara is the center of tattoo research, which is controlled by Aryabhata, and that a blind and deaf guardian fighter named Ganesha protects it. Suddenly, Ganesha lunges at them and starts whooping their butts. She sends Blood flying away, and he gets stabbed and injured when he lands. Suddenly his body starts to heal by itself, and he realizes that the tattoo is working its magic. Varma the gay boy takes Blood to meet the king, and he convinces him that Blood is on their side, but the king still tells him to dispose of him if he ever swings the wrong way. Blood then asks him in order to confirm whether Aryabhata is his real daughter, and he confirms that she isn't, which makes Blood comment that he must really be guilty towards her for something to give her so many favors. The king becomes angry to hear this and orders the two of them to leave. Later, Aryabhata sends Blood on his first mission with Cal to the first ruins, where some American soldiers attack and Blood captures them. He refuses to kill them because it goes against his morals, but Cal reminds him that Aryabhata had ordered them to eliminate all the enemies, and she kills all of them. Soon Cal gives Blood a photo of Wiseman to hunt him down, and later Iltutmish joins the gang as well, while Blood keeps wondering how he should sneak into Samsara. Sometime later, Blood tells Varma that he is fighting for the sake of someone he loves, and they both discuss how they are going to sneak into Samsara to retrieve some evidence so that the king can act against Aryabhata. Varma comments that the king feels obligation and love for Aryabhata, due to which he isn't acting, and Blood assures Varma that he is a strong person for thinking so deeply about the future. They both launch a surprise attack on Samsara's guard Ganesha, and Blood takes her on directly. She ruthlessly attacks him and keeps pondering him, but he manages to find out her trigger. He then teams up with Varma to smash her against a tree, and they tie her up. Blood starts to feel woozy after overusing his powers, and he then uses his powers to dig a tunnel to sneak into Samsara's lowest levels. They walk through the tunnel to enter a room filled with hot babes, and Aryabhata's sister Kujuri welcomes them there. She introduces them to more of her sisters and reveals that they are living in the residential area while the researchers are located above. She shows them around the quarters and tells them that this was the place where they were all created. They enter into a lab filled with chicks in tubes, and Sigma Chad Blood doesn't bat an eye as he asks her whether they are all Aryabhata's clones. She explains that they are more like her sisters, and that 35 years ago the kingdom discovered the ruins, so the king decided to use the ruins to rewrite the world, since he was very focused on expanding his territory back then. Since the ruins interface couldn't be accessed by him, he created Aryabhata and the other babes so that they could be used as an input device to use the ruins. They wonder why she is revealing so much information, so she explains that all the sisters are centered around Aryabhata as she is the core, but still they can all think a little independently. Her sisters try to stop her from spilling so much tea, so she ties them down. Meanwhile, Aryabhata sends Cal over to the lab to check things out, and she calls Kujuri on the way, who tells her that everything is normal. One of the sisters yells at the phone and shares that two intruders are stealing information, so Kujuri tells Blood and Varma to run away. They rush back, and on the way Cal tries stopping them by attacking them from above the ground. She also reports everything to Aryabhata, who tells her forces to surround the castle. She also teleports to the site and tells Cal that she controls the military and parliament at this point, so Blood can never escape the kingdom. Meanwhile, Blood takes an injured Varma's twink bum to the king and he recalls that one of the sisters told him that Aryabhata wants to rewrite the human world because of the injustice she faced. Long ago, the creators of the Tattoos clan were used by the king for human experimentation to figure out the secret behind the tattoos, and the royals made them produce kids after kids till a perfect tool in the form of Aryabhata was born, while a clan of 3,000 people was eliminated. The king grieves over Varma, who is almost dead, and he shares with Blood that his mistake is that he loved Aryabhata like a daughter do, to which he gave her too much power to overthrow him. He admits defeat at Aryabhata's hands, but he still leads Blood to a secret path which leads into an underground railway. Blood escapes through the railway and later he comes across the full force of Brahmin who attack him ruthlessly. He smacks Iltutmish into the ground and manages to avoid Kal's major attacks as well. Captain Ajita also rushes after him, and just then he gets swallowed by a huge cube of void. The void throws him into the river and Aryabhata throws an attack at the water, but still at this point Blood has escaped, so she orders Kal to bring him back dead or alive. In Seiji's mind, Blood asks Seiji to accept his tattoo, but for the 100th time, Seiji starts whining about how he cannot do it. Blood reminds him that the future lies in his hands, and despite his constant whining, he shakes hands with him. A year passes by in which Seiji trains with Izzy at a hideout which was suggested by Wiseman to them, and they discuss how Wiseman is a mad scientist who sold American tattoos to the kingdom for his own benefit. Seiji reminds her that Wiseman is Aryabhata's enemy, due to which they are friends, and that he will handle things in the end if anything goes wrong. Izzy thinks he has grown a lot, and he reminds her that he cannot stay a kid forever. Later they all eat food with their group, in which Tom keeps acting like a creep and one of their comrades named Tamaki makes them eat food made out of insects. He teases Izzy that she has to eat such foods to grow her talents, so she beats him up. Later, they all have a mock match in which the US soldiers take Seiji on, but he manages to defeat all of them one by one because of his MC powers. Tamaki asks him how he managed to improve so fast, so Seiji tells him that he is able to see people's movements now. Later, when they all arrive at their hideout, they find that it has been attacked, and just then, Wiseman calls to tell them that the kingdom has discovered their location. They also find a letter CD from the kingdom, and when they give it to Wiseman, he hesitates to show Seiji the video from Aryabhata. In the video, Aryabhata and her harem of chicks have fun fooling around in a California beach, and Aryabhata tells them that she plans to go to the Grand Canyon soon, where the third ruin site is located, for some research, so Seiji should join her. She shows them Lisa in the video, who has been kidnapped, and afterwards Wiseman tells them not to go. He explains that Seiji will only be useful when Aryabhata has activated the ruins, at which point Wiseman will install a virus in Seiji's tattoo which will help destroy the ruin system. He tells the gang that the virus is not complete and he thinks Seiji should keep running away till the virus is complete, but Seiji decides not to be a wuss. He keeps arguing with Wiseman, and finally Izzy pulls a gun at him. She tells Wiseman to make arrangements to send them to America, and she declares that she will bring Seiji back at any cost. The preparations to head to America begin while Seiji practices some boxing as he recalls his killing intent for Aryabhata for Tuko's sake. In the meanwhile, Tamaki heads to meet his childhood friend Yumi, who is some kind of third-class cosplayer, and proposes to her. They both have a cliché discussion about how Tamaki is just a background character who shouldn't make such serious declarations, and he promises to come back for her sake. He makes her recall that they were childhood friends who got separated, but they met accidentally as adults due to fate. The whole gang then heads to Grand Canyon in America, where Tamaki tells Tom on the way that he is marrying his fiancée on his return, and Tom almost has a heart attack since he thought Tamaki was a typical cheery girl weeb. Sanders deploys very tight security around the Grand Canyon, and a group of soldiers keep an eye on all movements around the area. Just then, they detect some kind of SUS movement in one of the areas and discover Captain Ajita, who seems to have the most useless role in Brahman. Captain Ajita puts a fake eye in his eye socket, and he then turns into an ugly-looking insect monster. Sanders quickly tells his forces to attack the monster and to call for backup from the nearest bases. His forces storm forward and throw missiles at the monster, which hit him directly. In the meanwhile, Seiji and his group try to sneak into the Grand Canyon, but US Army forces attack them too, since they cannot differentiate them from the enemy. Seiji's group decides to push forward though force, and they knock some soldiers out to rush forward. Just then, they spot the nuisance King Lurker, who has injured one of the army soldiers along with one of his kingdom chicks. The army forces shoot bullets at his sidekick, but she shrinks all of them using her tattoo powers, and she then uses her powers to stab all of them. Izzy tells Seiji to calm down, and he notices that she looks the most pain between them, which makes him realize that the army forces were probably Izzy's war buddies from the tattoo force. Tamaki tells Seiji and Tom to head to the ruins to meet up with Aryabhata, while he and Izzy decide to stay back to take care of Nuisance King and his side chick. Lurker keeps defeating the US soldiers, so Izzy rushes to attack him, and another fighter attacks her first. To her surprise, the fighter turns out to be Lisa, who has been possessed. Lurker's sidekick also uses her powers to enlarge the bullets, and she keeps killing the soldiers with the enlarged bullets while the soldiers wonder when the backup will arrive. Tamaki saves one of them and asks them about the backup forces, so the soldier reveals that the sealed forces are heading this way. He becomes SUS of Tamaki, so Tamaki knocks him out and he then rushes to fight Lurker's side chick. She instantly attacks him, but he destroys her enlarged objects and tells her that he cannot tell her about his identity. One of the kingdom's fighters joins the scene, but Lurker's side chick instantly kills him on the spot, and she tells Tamaki to please show her the dance of death as she doesn't mind giving him her life. Lisa keeps attacking Izzy while Lurker yaps that he has learned that a family of geologists moved into Grand Canyon for their study, but they accidentally discovered the ruins which got their son killed. The family daughter was then looked after by the army colonel, who also gave her a tattoo, and Lurker thinks that it's really comical that Izzy got the tattoo even though it destroyed her family. Lurker keeps up his never-ending yapping that Iltutmish had a hard time controlling Lisa, due to which he had to personally train Lisa by doing all kinds of nasty things. Izzy vows to kill him and Lisa prepares to attack her again. Tom leads Seiji to a specific spot and tells him that the ruins are located directly beneath them in a cave, so Seiji makes a hole with his powers and tells Tom to back him up. He then jumps into the hole and comes face to face with Cal, so he jumps back from her. He realizes that he cannot use his void powers, so instead he tells her that he knows her from blood. She comments that he cannot physically destroy the ruins, and he counters that he can still obstruct the ruins since his own powers came through the ruins. She keeps attacking him, but he avoids her attacks, and she tells him that although blood destroyed her circuit breakers, she can use the noise chancellor, which stops him from using his powers. She reveals that she has also leveled up by practicing her skills a lot, and he reminds her that he can beat her easily now that he has absorbed blood. He rushes at her while Wiseman thinks that Seiji has a chance to win if Cal hasn't shut down his restorative abilities as well. In the meanwhile, Lurker's side chick is beaten up by Tamaki, who uses super acceleration by making distortions in space. He rushes to attack her once again while she gets creepily excited about facing such a strong opponent. On the other hand, Izzy also keeps fighting Lisa and Lurker together, but she starts to slowly get defeated by them as they both have the upper hand. Suddenly, two more tattoo army soldiers named Lawrence and Tony join her, and she tells them to handle the bonehead Lurker while she rushes towards Lisa to deal with her. She shoots at her and her bullets get dodged, so she attacks her with her weapon. Lisa destroys her weapon too, but Izzy ends up getting the last punch at her face, which pushes Iltutmish out of her body. Just then, Lurker kills Lawrence with his powers and he rushes to attack Tony too, but Izzy towards him and shoots him with a bullet. The bullet pierces him and he suddenly falls down on his knees as Izzy explains that the special bullet contains venom from the snakes that he loves so much. Tamaki sends the kingdom fighter flying against the mountain, and she releases a bunch of spikes on the mountains that surround her. She tells him to come running at her so that they can die together, and Tamaki recalls his promise of love with his fiancée. He then runs towards her to attack her, and just then, Izzy also kicks Lurker towards him. Lurker then gets busted once again along with his psycho sidekick. Seiji keeps fighting Cal, who keeps coming at him while he blocks all of her attacks. He tries to punch her chest, and up next he manages to slice her with his knife. He then asks her why a sane woman like her would follow a psycho like Aryabhata, so she explains to him that once all the ruins are activated, Aryabhata will unite with all of her sisters through homogenization, and she will transcend from a human to a superior being. She goes on to yap that Aryabhata will then become a god in a godless world, and she manages to stab him with her knife. She pushes him back as she tells him that Aryabhata won't be herself after the activation, and that human framework is a hindrance in the first place. Seiji lets his hand get stabbed because he likes it rough and tells Cal that he won't allow Aryabhata to lose herself because he wants to get rid of her with his own hands to avenge Tuko. He tries stabbing her and they both attack each other, but their attacks are equally matched. Cal then strips down to her one-piece garment and she readies herself to launch her finishing attack. Izzy and Tamaki rush towards the ruins while Cal brings out her source. She assumes a low stance to strike Seiji whenever he will step near her, and Seiji recalls Blood's motivational words. He rushes at her and blocks her first attack with his armband. She then hits his leg with her weapon, but in return he twists around and smacks her gut hard, which makes her crap her non-existent pants. She falls down in defeat and Seiji barely gets the time to celebrate when suddenly the ruins crystals disappear. Aryabhata appears in all her glory and Seiji recalls the moment when Izzy gave him the memento which fell when Iltutmish devoured Tuko's body. He ties up his hair with Tuko's last memento and tells Aryabhata to let him kill her once and for all. Wiseman thinks about how he gave some pills to Seiji before he left which will curb his exhaustion from overusing his source, and he creepily smiles to himself. Seiji then throws a wave of void towards her, but she blocks his attack with a shield. He then rushes at her in anger, so she jumps in the air and conjures some balls which start shooting lasers at him. He gets injured by their attacks and she then unleashes another wave of power at him which he barely manages to avoid by generating a shield of his own. She taunts him that he can never use powers like her because he is too consumed by hatred and anger, and she conjures spiky rocks to throw at him. She then starts changing the structures of rock to build a throne for her to sit on while she keeps taunting him that she can manipulate a weak mid-dude like him easily. She then clasps him with her powers, and just then Izzy and Tamaki arrive above the ruins cave. They discover that the path to the ruins is blocked, and in the sky American forces manage to subdue Captain Ujita in his monster form. He admits defeat, and as he falls down he turns into a huge spherical structure that falls down at the canyon. The structure self-destructs on its own, which ends up destroying a lot of the canyon, but Izzy and the gang manage to find a path that leads to the ruins. On the way, they come across an injured Sanders who tells Izzy to go look for Seiji and the gang rushes ahead. Sanders thinks about how he wasn't a good dad to Izzy and he decides to launch a nuclear bomb that is under his control as a last resort. Izzy thinks about how she is coming back to the place which took away her brother and parents from her, but she still rushes ahead to save Seiji's weak little bum. Seiji keeps getting beaten around by Aryabata, and as if that's not enough, she keeps uselessly ranting about how the powers of triggerless tattoos are used. Seiji realizes that he has overused his powers while Aryabata stabs him with multiple stakes and then throws him down a pit hole. He is unable to heal himself and she comments that Wiseman never intended to help him out fully because he never revealed all the facts about the triggerless tattoo to him. She even assumes that Wiseman must have filled him with poison so that she can get poisoned in return when she will eat for her lunch snack, and this turns out to be true. Seiji falls down on a couple of stakes and her friends arrive just in time to help him out. Tamaki takes him out of the barbecue skewers while Sanders orders all of his troops to withdraw from the Grand Canyon even though they tell him that they are coming to get him. Seiji's healing powers are even more useless than him as they fail to heal him, but he still tries to get up to fight Aryabata as he wants to avenge Tuko at any cost. Tamaki steps forward to hold Aryabata off and he tells the others to run away with Seiji, and Izzy also steps forward to fight alongside him. She tells Seiji that she wants to settle a score of her own and that he can still grow stronger. Aryabata lets Seiji go because she believes he cannot escape and Izzy and Tamaki face her, so she tells them that the ruins will assimilate with her soul soon enough. She warns them to prepare themselves for their end, and on the other side, Tamaki and Izzy get beaten around by Aryabata too, and she uses powers similar to Izzy to attack her in return. She even throws acid on them, so Tamaki throws Izzy at her and Izzy then attacks her head on. Aryabata attacks her but only manages to slice away her artificial arm, and Izzy in return kicks her hard, which sends her to the ground. She gets a cut on her hand which triggers her since she is a spoiled princess, so she unleashes all of her powers on Izzy and ends up causing a huge scale explosion. The army loses footage of the site and Aryabata then floats towards the sky. Sanders' group spots her and Tom advises him to run away since Aryabata still needs Seiji to activate the ruins, but Sanders reveals that he plans to attack her with a nuclear bomb. He takes out the button and declares that Aryabata should lick his bum in the afterlife, but when he presses it, nothing happens. Wiseman comments that Sanders is a fool to think that exploding things will solve the matter, and just then, Seiji jumps out of the helicopter. He catches Izzy in the midair and he thinks about how he and Blood both failed to save their loved ones. His source comes out and he tells it to devour him so that the enemy can be defeated. His source eats him up, but still Seiji passes through it and suddenly Wiseman pushes a button to activate something. Seiji's source starts to come out of him and he transforms into his source, while Wiseman thinks about how people's source can still consume them even if they haven't overused their tattoo powers. Since Aryabata kissed Seiji when they first met, she formed a link with him, and Wiseman used the power of this link to draw out Seiji's source so that he can combat Aryabata on equal ground. Wiseman also reveals that Aryabata's source uses the souls of her sisters as fuel, and this triggers Aryabata, who realizes that her sisters must be suffering a lot now that Seiji has transformed into a transformer. Both source monsters attack each other and they punch each other. They both can't use their void powers because their powers cancel each other's void-making powers out, and US Army also attacks Aryabata's sources from a side. Although they are very useless since their attacks don't work on void sources, still Tom yells at Seiji to defeat Aryabata and to save the whole world from evil. Seiji gets more motivated to hear these words and he hurls the monster up, which starts pounding Aryabata again and again. In the meanwhile, Izzy wakes up to find herself in front of Blood and he tells her that their souls seem to have linked up when Seiji's source ate her up. She jumps at him desperately and he mentions to her that it will be over soon. Seiji is able to push back Aryabata's monster and he realizes that she must be using her sisters to fuel up her source, so he decides to end the fight as quickly as possible to end the strain on them as well. He keeps punching her and this time he has the upper hand, while at the kingdom, Aryabata's sisters suffer due to her overusage of the powers. Kujuri tries to navigate the source usage and she thinks that as the eldest sister she should help out everyone the most. She manages to divert the strain from other sisters to herself and she then collapses. The US Army helicopters head to the Grand Canyon while Seiji keeps beating up Aryabata, and he has the upper hand since he is well versed with martial arts, while Aryabata is just randomly punching him. He topples her down and manages to rip her mouth open. When he spots Aryabata in her flesh, he jumps out from his source and lunges at her. The spirits of his dead friends support him while Aryabata tells him not to think that he has beaten her. He lands on her and attacks her, due to which both their sources disappear. Finally, USA wins the fight as Aryabata is defeated and everybody starts celebrating their win. Wiseman's colleagues also start celebrating and he tells them to begin preparations to start negotiations with the USA. Seiji watches everything from afar while he holds Izzy in his lap and he recalls that everything started when he took Blood's hand for the first time. He also thinks about how Izzy helped him with everything along the way and thanks her for her support. Has the era of peace finally arrived, or is evil still lurking in the background? Comment your thoughts below.